142. Insofar as we regard the first universal as the understanding's notion in which the force is not yet for itself, the second is now force's essence as it exhibits itself in and for itself. Or, conversely, if we regard the first universal as the immediate, which was supposed to be an actual object for consciousness, then this second is determined as the negative of force that is objective to sense. It is force in the form of its true essence, in which it exists only as an object for the understanding. The first universal would be force driven back into itself, or force as substance. The second, however, is the inner being of things qua inner, which is the same as the notion of force qua notion. 143. This true essence of things has now the character of not being immediately for consciousness. On the contrary, consciousness has a mediated relation to the inner being, and as the understanding, looks through this mediating play of forces into the true background of things. The middle term which unites the two extremes, the understanding and the inner world, is the developed being of force, which, for the understanding itself, is henceforth only a vanishing. This being is therefore called appearance, for we call being that is directly and in its own self a non-being, a surface show. But it is not merely a surface show, it is appearance, a totality of show. This totality, as totality or as a universal, is what constitutes the inner of things, the play of forces, as a reflection of the inner into itself. In it, the things of perception are expressly present for consciousness as they are in themselves, namely, as moments which immediately and without rest or stay turn into their opposite, the one immediately into the universal, the essential immediately into the unessential, and vice versa. This play of forces is consequently the developed negative, but its truth is the positive, namely, the universal, the object that, in itself, possesses being. The being of this object for consciousness is mediated by the movement of appearance, in which the being of perception and the sensuously objective in general has a merely negative significance. Consciousness, therefore, reflects itself out of this movement back into itself as the true, but qua consciousness converts this truth again into an objective inner, and distinguishes this reflection of things from its own reflection into itself. Just as the movement of mediation is likewise still objective for it, this inner is, therefore, for consciousness an extreme over against it, but it is for consciousness the true, since in the inner, as the in itself, it possesses at the same time the certainty of itself, or the moment of its being for self. But it is not yet conscious of this ground or basis, for the being for self, which the inner was supposed to possess in its own self, would be nothing else but the negative movement. This, however, is for consciousness still the objective, vanishing appearance, not yet its own being for self. Consequently, the inner is for it certainly notion, but it does not as yet know the nature of the notion.